is Ruel's Running Podcast, a podcast about running, health, family, play, and an NSNG lifestyle. And now, here's your host, Ruel.
Excuse me as I rock on. That's Went Away by Dorothy Lane. Dorothy Lane out of Martinez, California. That's out of the Cut and Dry album. Check them out at dorothylanemusic.com. Yeah. Hey everybody, welcome to Ruel's Running Podcast. I'm your host, Ruel Abadam. What's up? How's everybody doing? I'm once again on the road. This is my roving studio, recording on the Boss Jock Studio app on iOS, on the iPhone. If you are a new listener, welcome to the show. Welcome to the podcast. It's basically an audio. It's basically become an audio blog. Yeah, you know, it's like a lot of us, like in life, it's we evolve, and I'm okay with that. And it's not going to be everybody's cup of tea, but that's okay, because around here it's coffee. If you are a return listener, hey guys, welcome back. I love you guys. Where my brothers and sisters in NSNG at? Raise your hand. Speaking of the Boss Jock app, kind of bummed. You know, I work in tech. I'm what's called a software quality professional. I do web and mobile application testing, and the Boss Jock Studio app is something that I find really helpful when I record these podcasts the way I do. I'm kind of bummed that the developer has not made any updates to the app. And I get it. If you're like a lone wolf developer and you have something cool and you made your bread on the app, you know, and you have a busy life and you have other things to do, why? But man, I sure wish that the app would be updated to support things like, you know, I even messaged the developer. Can you have an update where I could leverage my Bluetooth headphones and Bluetooth mic, basically the AirPods? No return. I mean, as technology, we have more and more of that accessible, and but in order for me to use earbuds, I'd have to plug them into the phone and use them that way. And you know, there's a lack of support where if I want to listen to what's going on as I record, I can't, because like as I speak, I'm just talking into the phone. I can't you know, activate any of the audio clips that I have control over on this board. You know, things like this. I can't hear it, but you could probably hear it. Yeah, I couldn't hear that, but you could. Or how about this? This old goodie. Yeah, so I can't hear any of that. I'll be able to hear it once I do the final edit, but I can't have fun and be creative around anything as I drive past a fire truck. Anyways, so what are we talking about today? Talking about I've been doing no creative cooking lately, so the What's Cooking segment is going to be boring. I've been cooking steak, great, and I've been cooking vegetables and pork type dishes in the Instant Pot. I've talked about cooking those things many times in other episodes, so I'm not going to get into detail on that. What else is going on? What else is cooking? Related to food, but not so much cooking. My wife's bake shop. So this is the segment of the episode where it's clearly not NSNG, as we're talking about baked goods. but it's just a part of my life, and I'm going to talk about it. So the bake shop is, I sometimes describe it as a college project that my wife and I do together, and it's fun, and we have a good time. And recently, on my wife's side of the family, they had what's called it was a fiesta. It was her father, my father-in-law, is from a certain town in the Philippines, and here in California, the folks from that town get their families together and have this fiesta once a year. And this year it was close to where we live, so we attended. And my wife contributed to parts of the planning, and my wife decided to develop or create or craft a line of, or a set of baked treats that would have flavors that are familiar to the folks at this fiesta. So, she made several baked treats, and we basically used the fiesta as the sort of a practice or a try for attending an event and sort of setting up a display at an event. It sort of reminded me of an expo or a convention or a trade show, right? Because we had a 6-foot table with a cover on it, and we bought a runner that goes over the table that has the logo on it, and we set up a backdrop, a tropical backdrop. So had some things on the table, like some tropical type plants, and weaved trays and Miley lays laid across. So it was a total tropical theme, and we had the treats on display, and put out some business cards. So that was that happened last weekend. That was fun. That was fun to see people scan the table and pick up their treats and and smile. So what else is going on? I'm going to hop into the running side. Running related. First, been podcasting on the other side at the Ultra Diner with Tony Portera. So far, we have, as of this recording, we have 3 guest episodes, or three guest episodes published. Ken Michael, Gabriella Pops, and Frank McKinney. And thinking back, what they all have in common, other than being ultra runners, is that they've all at least once, ran Badwater. I believe Ken Michael has ran Badwater. So maybe I'm wrong, but either way, all incredible individuals, all incredible people. I know Ken from being at some of the same events, and he's a podcaster as well, and we've chatted and we've communicated back and forth over things in the past. And I know Gabriella in a similar fashion. We met a couple years ago. Last year, she shared several miles on my birthday run with me. It wasn't an event, and we've been I like to say we've been good friends since then. Not the type of friends where our families hang out, but when you spend several hours with somebody on a trail or on a run, and you get to hear a lot about their story and stuff, you just can't help but feel that way, have that type of relationship. Frank McKinney, I've never met before. First time getting to meet him over the podcast. He's a good friend of Tony's, and man, he is an incredible individual as well. I had no idea who I was talking to I mean, I didn't have the full scope of who I was talking to, but he dropped a lot of life, not just running lessons, but life lessons on the podcast. So check those out. On my personal running, I have to register for the Ohlone 50K. I'm probably going to do that after I record this podcast. And what's funny is I really want to run it. I really enjoyed last year. And I have no idea what this year is going to be like, because last year was the coolest year for the event in its history. And so if this year normalizes, then it should be a hot one, right? And I'm not sure how I'll perform under those conditions on that course, but nonetheless, I still want to do it. Had a blast last year. Even though I didn't finish by the cutoff, I was able to finish the course as an unofficial finisher. Same level of satisfaction, in my opinion, had I completed it before the cutoff. Still managed to get it done, and man, it was good. Met cool people on the way the last year. So if I attend this year, hopefully I can get a similar sense of satisfaction. It was interesting on that, talking about the Ultra Diner and the podcast with Frank McKinney. He said something, because he himself is returning back to Badwater 135 for his to attain not just an 8th finish at Badwater 135, but he described it as seeking that elusive emotional and mental race. And I've never heard it described that way before until then, and that's exactly how I feel sometimes. When I'm out on a run, it has nothing to do with about if I can get the cutoffs out of my mind and have a run, have my own race where emotionally and mentally, maybe even spiritually, it just was awesome. That I can walk away on the day or from the event feeling complete satisfaction with my performance because of that. And so it reminds me of the Lake Chabot event that I did in February. I wasn't able to continue on to complete the course. I didn't meet a cutoff, but despite that, I felt like I was close to that elusive emotional and spiritual and mental race of mine, because I was able to move in a way that in my mind I was progressing, and that told me several things psychologically, that I was stronger and healthier, and I wasn't breaking down as much. Even though I had some mechanical problems, they were fleeting, and I coped with them. And over the course of the event, I felt like, wow, I'm healthier than I have been, and yes, I'm undertrained, but still I'm able to do what I'm able to do, and not beat myself up mentally, psychologically. I was just happy, and I was moving. And sure, it meant that I didn't finish the course. I got 28 miles on the course, but man, I felt good. And so I wonder if that's me kind of getting close to that elusive, perfect mental, spiritual, emotional sort of type race. And I want to do that again. Obviously I want to finish the course. It's just there's nothing like covering the course, and I'm never going to know what it's like to be fast and anything like that, but that's okay. So yeah, I gotta register for the Ohlone 50K, and what I get to do is I get to expense it under a not professional professional development sort of type thing, but more like gym fees, so that's cool. So if I do that, if I register this week, I can turn around and I could actually expense the thing and get my money back. That's always fun. So that's that. So that's running, and that's a little bit on food. So yeah, before I wrap up the running segment, funny how I have just a small segment on running on a running podcast. It still blows my mind, but I'm as I'm recording, I've not run a step for weeks, and in my mind, I'm registering for this event and I'm going to do it in my mind, but I haven't done anything to prepare my body. So that's a bad thing. So I need to, it's weird. I'm not how do you say it? Training minded, or I'm not disciplined. I'm not regimented about training. I sort of let that all slide to the side as I do other stuff. Meanwhile, I'm watching Strava updates, give kudos to your friends. like, dang, someone just went out on a run and I didn't go out on a run, or dang, someone went out on a run in the evening and I didn't go out for a run on the evening. But yeah, if I want to have any level of success, I need to condition myself, prepare myself one way or another for that next event. And so that's that. On the family side of things, things are busy, and spring break is coming up, and by the time this releases, I don't know. I'll see what I can do to get it scheduled and published, so that we're not listening to this way past any sort of spring break. But the family will be away for a week. We're going to Disneyland. Yay! So that'll be fun. And so I got lots to do before then. I've got lots of work, and a lot of side projects, some research. I'm looking into some other things that I guess I shouldn't talk about on this podcast, but it reminds me that the way I tend to live my life is a mess. As you can tell, the podcast is a clear reflection of the mess, and some things I can control, but some things I can't. And there are a lot of things that I could stand to control that are within my reach to control, but I just haven't gotten off my ass to do it. But then I still tend to feel like I live my life in a series of daily, weekly, monthly, yearly tests. I, like a lot of folks, have my own level of anxieties around things. It's fear-based. And sometimes I feel like, F it. I'm sick and tired of being scared of this and that or the other thing. I'm just going to try and figure out things along the way, and if I screw up, then I screw up. And that's another layer of fear. It's the fear of the screw up. It's like, okay, I guess I shouldn't pre-fear until the screw up actually happens. Then I can have something right in front of my face to fear. So I know that doesn't make a whole lot of sense. I'm talking very vaguely. I'm just talking in general. The other morning, I met a friend on the street. Paint that picture. I met a friend on the street. Now, I met a friend at the train station. How's that for a picture? I was coming up the stairs, trying to get out of the train station, and he was coming down the same set of stairs. He flagged me down. We embraced in a brotherly sort of way, and just like, man, haven't seen you. I think I haven't seen him since my wedding. And we caught up. I got to the office late because I chose to sit down and have a cup of coffee with him and catch up. It was great seeing my friend Todd. And man, and we're friends we're connected on Facebook, so now and again I get to see updates and stuff. And he has as well for my wife and I. So he knows about me and Abadam Studios and doing that sort of thing on the side, and he knows about my wife's bake shop and how we do that on the side. Yeah, it was good catching up. Felt really good. And even more so, it felt more connected and more powerful, I guess, of a connection. It sounds kind of woo-woo, whatever woo-woo means. Can someone, Alexa, what does woo-woo mean? Well, what made the connection for me the feel more powerful was the fact that it's over 10 years since we last saw each other. It was 2005 when I probably last saw him, and about a year ago he says he was diagnosed with Parkinson's, and he was telling me that as we got out of the train station and we're walking on the street in San Francisco, and we were making the crosswalk, and as we walked alongside of each other, I kind of I noticed he was walking a little bit differently than I remember my friend Todd doing. And I'm like, okay, well, we all sort of age, and we all have our things, so it's not a big deal. But then he told me that he has Parkinson's, and then I was like, whoa, wow. And I asked him what it's like for him, and what the challenges are. Todd's also a drummer on on the weekends and stuff. He's a drummer. He has a day job, he has a career, but he's a musician, and he plays the drums. And being on Parkinson's, the disease is affecting his left hand, and he has to make extra effort and take breaks, now. And but it's it hit me. It was one of those things that, wow. And it hit me in a way that it was a mix of, God, it was so great to see him, and we're going to continue to stay connected. But it was also I felt like when I said goodbye to him, I felt like sad, It's I guess the feeling has to do with nobody wants anybody, not just their friends or their family, to have any sort of disease, any sort of health condition, any sort of physical condition, right? So maybe that's what that was about. I just never I couldn't sort it out. It's just I walked through the rest of the day with this sensation on my chest. Again, a blend of, it was so great to see him again and spend time, but I was feeling kind of sad about it. Yeah. And like an idiot, like I am on this podcast, as I sat down, I straight up just tell people I've developed this ability to talk a whole lot about nothing, right? So as we sit down and have this coffee, I'm going to tell you stuff about what's going on in my life, and I'm going to hear about what's going on in your life, but it's all just going to be a mishmash of stuff, because I'm not a one-sided guy. If there's anything one-sided, I'm one-sidedly horrible at getting my thoughts together and having a conversation around any one thing, because I'm not going to sit down and talk about politics. I'm not going to analyze, the environment and how we can save it. I'm not going to debate anything with anyone as I sit here in a parking lot and my neighbor parks alongside and I wave. But yeah, I tend to do that. As a matter of fact, I was having I met up with my boss's boss at the office building the other day. He was waiting for the elevator, and I had come down the stairwell. He saw me. We met up. We sort of, as he waited, we talked about family. He's a family man. We talked about how I recently chaperoned a field trip for my kid's 4th grade class, and then I just slipped right into it, and I told him, I'm going to talk I apologize if as we stand here and you're just letting your elevator just continue to just go on by, you're not entering it. That's my visual cue that you're choosing to stand next to me as in my warning, I'm just going to talk your ear off with a whole bunch of nothing. And I did, with no structure, just all over the place. Talked about family, talked about mental health, because we operate in the business of mental health, and talked about schools, talked about a whole bunch, and talked about field trips, just all over the place. And then I, in my own way, encouraged him to leave. Don't wait. I quickly pick up that it's time to go, and I do that. Sometimes, I don't know. I rarely get to talk to my boss's boss, even though we sit close to each other, but everybody's busy. And anyways, so that's that. That's sort of, I guess that's family and work. And what's coming up next? Let's see. Shout out to once again to Lonnie Beecham. He is I'm his partner in crime as we commit to crime on a semi-regular basis of releasing the Service Guys podcast. I don't know why I said it that way, Lonnie, but what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to work on the podcast pages outside of the podcast host webpage. My plan is to build pages for the Service Guys podcast onto Restored Restoration. Right now from Restored Restoration, this is Lonnie's business, restorerestoration.com. Restore-it-restoration.com. So you can't find me, Lonnie. There's a link to podcast on the header, and that takes you straight to the Libsyn page for the Service Guys podcast. And what I'd like to do is actually build episode pages. I want to build a landing page for the Service Guys podcast, and I want to build episode pages as well, link to those, because it's, I feel, wonderful content, totally related to Restored Restoration, and that just builds upon Lonnie's website, and just the more content you can have on the web, however way you want to mix and mash it, it's more content about you, about what your business, about what you do. So that's what I'm working on the side. Yeah, that's pretty much it. I've got to get me a cup of coffee, and I have to spend a whole lot of time on a computer and wait for the carpet cleaning guy to show up. As a matter of fact, as I get this coffee, I'm going to make a phone call straight to the company and let them know about my about my service call, or my requested service. And then after that's done, then I'll have something to talk to Lonnie about on the Service Guys podcast on a personal note and within his expertise. So there. Lonnie remind me to talk about that in the next episode of the Service Guys podcast. So check that out, guys. The Service Guys podcast. Also, the Ultra Diner. And thanks for listening. And hopefully I'll have an update on on me doing some level of training and conditioning and leading up to the Aloni 50K. How's that? Awesome. Well, guys, I'm going to go. Thanks for sticking around. Thanks for listening. Remember to eat something delicious, hug your friends, hug your family, and go run something. Goodbye.
Thanks for listening to Ruel's Running Podcast with Ruel. If you like what you just heard, share it with your friends and your enemies. Also, be sure to check out the site over at ruelsrunning.com. This has been another Coffee with Heavy Cream production. Join us next time for another silly show of Ruel's Running Podcast.